everyone. Welcome to today's session. We're super excited to have you on board in today's virtual panel session. We're glad you were fully able to make it to this session today. My name is Stephen Oladile. I'm the lead volunteer for the AI School. It was formerly for Harcourt School of AI, so now we revamped to AI School, and we've rebranded as well. So check the links in the description to get details on our rebranding. For what we do at Harcourt School of AI is we try to lower the barrier to premium education as well as provide opportunities as well. And in today's panel session, it's part of that engagement. It's part of that cause of providing premium education from top-class experts, practitioners from all over the world. And we're excited to have you join us today. So before I go on, just going to jump into the panel session real quick, of course. So I'm going to be introducing the panelists. But before I go on, please make sure you subscribe to our channel, join the link, check the description box. For pretty much every other thing, so we don't waste your time. We just get started quickly. So I'm just going to be introducing the panelists, and the way this is going to go is I'm going to introduce the panelists. We jump right into talking about their career path and why they think that was the optimal path for them or not. And then we're going to go about answering your question. So yeah, first things first. Introduction. So again, guys, school lead volunteer, and I'm a fanboy of pretty much everyone here today because I'm so delighted to have all the panels of the experts on board today. And for other things, I think we're going to send the majority of the things we're going to be talking about as a post-event email as well. So you're going to get all that already. So before I go on, let me get into introducing the panelists for today. So it's a long bio, and I'm going to boringly read for you, but hopefully you get excited. So the first panelist on the session today is Salomon Kabongo. He's a researcher, PhD student at L3S Research Center, and is also a PhD student, of course, in the Leanlyns AI Lab. So he lives in Germany right now, Hamburg, Germany, and he's also an alumnus of the African Masters in Machine Intelligence Program, University of Ghana, which is sponsored by Google and Facebook, of course, through the African Institute for Mathematical Sciences. He also works in natural language processing technology. So if you're keen on natural language processing, you should definitely check out Salomon. So Lynn is the next person. She's a cloud architect that codes, a consultant, as well as an angel investor. She runs a successful apprenticeship program for students and learners looking to get into technology. And she's also a Google developer expert in cloud, Microsoft Data Platform, MVP for Data Platform, as well as an AWS Community Hero. Side note, I'm a huge fanboy as well. Yeah, so the third person we have on the panel is Ese. So Ese is a senior consultant and a data scientist at IBM. So before IBM, Ese attended the George Washington University for a master's degree in data science. He also worked as a statistical consultant as well as teaching assistant during his time in graduate school. Now, the fourth person we have on the panel today is Evaristus. He's a business intelligence engineer at Amazon. So for his master's program in data science, and he also worked as a teaching assistant there and in graduate school there. So before attending NYU as well, I knew Evaristus pretty much before that, and he took a lot of boot camps in university. So I know he has this diverse perspective on are boot camps right, or is he just go to graduate school? Anyway, yeah, so we're going to be hearing a lot from him, of course. And then the last but not the least on the panel is Emeka Boris. He's a lead data scientist and has been building machine learning applications, data-driven applications for quite some time now. He's worked with top companies like MonoHQ, Law Pavilion, and GlobalQ, as well as the UNDP. And he did not attend graduate school. It was pretty much a self-taught journey for him. He's going to also telling us about that journey. So yeah, to jump right into the meat of things, here's how this is going to go. So each panelist are going to talk about their journey so far, why they think their journey is like the optimal path to get into a professional career in data science or not. And then after that, we get to ask questions, and then we get to the audience questions and join you as well. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So I'm going to be starting with Salomon, of course. Hi, Salomon.
Hi, Steven.
Hi,
can you hear me?
Yeah, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Nice to be here. Thank you for the invite, and thank you to be part of this great panel.
Yeah, thanks a lot for joining in. We are super delighted to have you on board today, and we hope you have a great time as well. So before we get started, I just want to really understand your journey so far. Because yeah, I mean, by the way, we had a podcast episode with Salomon, and it's on the African Data Scientist podcast channel, so you can check that out. And he had this academic path pretty much towards data science, and we just really want to understand your perspective. You know, why do you think your path might be optimal, or what path do you think might be optimal to fill us in on that?
Great. Yeah. So I guess it's difficult to say if my path is optimal at all, but yeah, I'll try to give my perspective. I think this question, this session is amazing because it got me thinking of saying that okay, it's true that I've gone to through graduate school, but is it the optimal way that one need to go through always? I think we will find out. I'm also excited to see everyone speaking in this panel and also learning from the conversation with all of you. So let me get started. Then I did an undergrad back in Congo because I'm originally from Congo, Kinshasa. Normally French speaking guy, but I switched to English for obvious reasons because I'm in AI and I had to switch to English somehow. Yeah, so I did my undergrad back in Congo in Lubumbashi, and then after doing math and computer science, I start feeling like there is something missing because I could not know how I will be useful to the society because from my mindset back then, when you finish university, you should be able to start getting a job for yourself, move from the parent house, obviously, starting taking care of you and plan a family and so on. But I realized that after doing mathematics, and so what I was able to do was just computing the derivative of a function or, doing some analysis, and no one cares about it in local companies. So I was frustrated to say, okay, I didn't spend 6 years back in university to become outdated because I didn't know where I fit in the society. And this is where my journey with postgraduate studies started. And I then got a scholarship by the African Institute for Mathematical Science in South Africa to do a master's degree again in mathematics. Anyway, I didn't have a choice because either I stay without knowing anything and continue again in mathematics, and I didn't know what is the use of these things called mathematics. And fortunately enough, I got to know now what is really mathematics and how it can be useful for modeling diseases, for doing artificial intelligence, and so everything that I've been learning for the past 6 years starting making sense. Why derivatives are important, why integrating is important, why all this trigonometry and so on start taking form in my life. And then I start understanding why I was learning and why it is useful. So and after that the story, I then did another master's degree by the Facebook AI and Google AI in Ghana in artificial intelligence, and now I moved for my PhD now in Germany. So I think for my point of view, as I started, there is no optimal path, as to say it. For my own point of view, I think that we need to think about an hybrid way. Like for some people in some specific career, having a background going to academic is the only way to go, because if you don't pass through that, you don't have enough credit, or you are not well equipped, as to say it, to enter a certain space of research and so on. So from my own point of view, I can say that from what I did, because I didn't only did university, but I did also a lot of boot camp. I have a deep learning, how do we call it, nano degree by Udacity. So I was not just an academic person. I realized that, okay, I'm learning deep learning in school, but what are companies thinking about machine learning? What people outside, what are they thinking about AI? So I took a nano degree by I think Udacity. I took a lot of course on ADX. I took part of a lot of boot camps. And what I can say, I'm really excited to hear about other panelists. But from my point of view, in any case, I think that anyone, if it's at all possible, if it's not a burden in your economy, you can mix up getting education if you can, and also having some apprenticeship, let's say boot camps, or all these things that are happening according to what you want to do in your personal life. So myself, I'm an example because I didn't just do university stuff, but I went forward also doing some boot camps, some summer school, and so on. So yeah, this is what I can say as a start. So I just finished saying that for my point of view, it's difficult to say that my user case is an optimal way to go, but I think personally that we need to get any breed way of going through this situation, not just being in the school for of all that. Only think that to be successful in a job position, you just have to be going to the university. I think that if you can, if it is not it's not a burden in your finances or so, and if the current career that you are trying to do, there are people, or you think that you can go through summer school boot camps and you can still be efficient, you can mix up stuff, you can do boot camps, but as well, if at all possible, you can do also universities postgraduate studies. So this is my first position. I'm looking forward to hearing from the other panelists. But yeah, when I was preparing for this, I guess I will take any breed way. I'm not focusing on academic only or boot camps only or tertiary education, but I think that we need to mix up all the two, whatever is possible. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Salomon, for your inputs. Really, we are kind of delighted to at least know that particular position. Now, I think the next person I would love to bring on board is Lynn. So, Lynn, what's your opinion of how someone should really get into that data science career path?
Well, I can talk about my experience and kind of contrast that with what I see in the industry. I am significantly older than all of you, so I'll try to keep it short. But you may be surprised to know that I am, although I do have a degree, it has nothing to do with data science. My degree is in the German language, ironically. So, ich spreche Deutsch. Sprichst du Deutsch? I'll bet you do. Anyway, so I've had multiple careers, and I had a career in business and then switched to a technical career. And my foundation was in the data area because I found most interesting. I think because of my business background, I always felt that the data was more interesting than the code because the data provided insight. So I kind of did data science before there was data science. It was called business intelligence. Maybe you heard of this in the history books. Anyway, so I am completely self-taught. So my perspective is around being very practical and making the data provide value for the businesses. And that usually translates into making reports. I mean, it's really honestly just that simple. Nowadays, obviously, you don't just make a report based on a SQL query, you make it based on some sort of machine learning model. So how did I get there? That's the question I always get asked because I'm self-taught, and how did I get there? Well, I used a similar path to what the previous speaker was talking about. I am a big fan of Khan Academy. When my now adult daughter was in her grades 10, 11, and 12, we literally did Khan Academy, and I learned calculus at a ancient age. but I'm living proof that if you wish to learn, you can learn at any time. And in order to be a practitioner, as Salomon said, you do have to have a certain amount of math. I would agree. And you can't, yes, you can use some of the APIs, like the Vision API or the video API. But honestly, we all have seen how those APIs are limited because they're built by the different cloud companies. And at best, they might work, and at worst, they probably have bias in them. And so you can use them for demonstration and for learning. But when you move to the real world, you're going to have to understand how to actually build. So my foundations are around the data. Like, you really have to understand the data. And if you don't understand the domain, you have to partner. In the most recent phase of my career, I've been working in bioinformatics. So it's been very interesting in these times of COVID, right, to see how the escalation in the use of advanced machine learning so that we can work together globally on this pandemic. It's been very fascinating to see, because the graduates come out of school and they know math, but just like Salomon, they don't know ML ops. They don't know how to deploy a model. They don't know cloud. So there's so many different skills. I think one of the big aspects of this is to understand that not one person can do everything. And so to really understand that you want to focus on certain parts of the data science world. And the area I focus more on is the ML ops, the deployment, the cloud stuff. And there are so many jobs here because there aren't enough people that understand this. So my focus area is through self-study. One of the things that I do, and I find there are a lot of people in the community that do this, thankfully, is I try to share. So my first go-to place to look for things is GitHub. And when I build something, if I'm able to share it, sometimes it's proprietary, I try to put it on GitHub as well, because this is such a quickly evolving area of technology. There are, I mean, as a person who would hire, I cannot find people who either have the qualifications or are confident enough to say that they'll learn. Unfortunately, in our industry, we have this situation where when you go to apply for a job, there's 57 requirements, and most people look at it and say, I'm not qualified. So you end up getting people who are overconfident, which isn't good either. So it's kind of so what I've done in my practice is I've really just taken people who come to me, and I also am an instructor in LinkedIn Learning. I have 25 courses on mostly cloud. And so a lot of times students will come to me, and they'll say, I want to, advance my career. And then I kind of have a process because I don't really have time to mentor everybody, but certain people who are really, I call them aggressive learners. That's sort of my, now I've told the world, you want to apprentice with me, you be an aggressive learner. And I don't care how you demonstrate it. If you are building a project, if you are, just passionate about making something better in society. I mean, I had one woman I just worked with, she was really passionate about voter rights in the United States. And so she wanted to work on projects around protecting voter rights, because you may or may not know that that's been a very political issue here. And there's a lot of back and forth with trying to restrict. It's a lot of political issue. And so I really, really love to work with people who are aggressive learners and passionate about data. I don't know if that's consumable, but that's what I'm doing. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's an unconventional path because you didn't have the background initially, and coming from a database background as well into data science, it's a sort of fascinating path that we're going to be coming into that later on, of course. Then I think it would be a great segue into just understanding S's journey, because I know for sure he had the chemical engineering background, but then again he got into data science through projects as well. But again, this wasn't like very conventional per se. It was just a career switch. How did that happen for you, SF? From like not having that, you had the technical background, of course, but not in data science. But how did that switch come about? Can you let us know?
Yeah, so that is really interesting because I think the whole topic, just to give like a hints on like direct, if I was to answer the question directly on the topic itself before diving into my journey. I don't think it's binary. I'm just going to lean on what Salomon has said. I don't think it's binary, like it has to be apprenticeship or graduate school or boot camp. I think it's a mix of both, of all. Yeah, a healthy mix of all, if you have the opportunity. And so I think giving this about my background would really help to bring that to light for my own journey. As Stephen has hinted, I had my first degree in chemical engineering, University of Port Harcourt in Nigeria. And afterwards, I've always loved to, I've always been around the tech community in Port Harcourt. And so I felt like, okay, this was an opportunity for me to make the move to like make a switch to data science or machine learning, like having a career in tech. But at that point, I was limited because for me, I felt like my chemical engineering background gave me very good understanding in mathematics, engineering mathematics, and it was something that I was very comfortable with. And I started off taking classes on Coursera, particularly Stanford Andrew Ng's course, one of the most popular courses of machine learning. And so, so the thing is, I got started on the course, but I was very cool in mathematics, but then I hadn't done programming before. This was in 2016, I hadn't programmed before, and so I knew very little about programming. And then I just finished my compulsory service, and then I felt like, okay, how about just venture into programming as well? And so I was fortunate to get on a boot camp, and after the boot camp, I started working as a software developer, particularly web developer, with a company Code House in Akwa Ibom State. And that was how I got started with programming, software development, understanding the product cycle of software development, software engineering. But then along the line, I felt like, oh yeah, my initial, what I would call first love, I felt like I still wanted to venture into machine learning AI because of my math background. And I started taking classes on Udacity as well as Coursera. I went back to my machine learning course, and just because of my own aspirations of wanting to work for a top company, a top tech company, I felt like, yeah, getting foundational knowledge under like faculty would be very good for me, as well as getting a step at the door. And that was what motivated my choice to pursue graduate education in data science. And yeah, that has really been cool. I got admission into data studying, doing a master's in data science at the Washington University in DC. And I was fortunate to work with IBM during my internship, my summer internship last year. And again, when I graduated, I got retained as a data scientist. So as you would imagine, my story is far from a very straight path. It's not like I had a vision, every detail to be like this. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to. Along the line, I think this has been a mix of doing a boot camp, working under someone to like understand what they do as in software engineering, as well as attending grad school. And I think they each have their pros and cons. Ultimately, what I would say is it depends on your end. Looking back, I think it depends on your end goal. What is your end goal? I know this is a very difficult thing. It's not as easy as I'm saying it. Like, okay, what do I really want? What do I want to get out from my career in data science? And why this is even more difficult for data scientists is because data science as a field, it's still emerging. Every day there's vast amount of research coming out, like, it's it's very difficult to keep up with. And so there isn't like a defined path or like a structured path. And I believe that's why we're having a discussion. But yeah, this is what I'm going to throw in my advice. Like, so the thing is, it really helps if you have an end goal. And even if you don't, that is totally fine. But it helps, like, see it as a discovery phase. Maybe I'm going to throw myself into some of career discovery for the first year, and then revisit, okay, what is now my end goal? You always need to have that big picture. And that would drive your path. Because say, for example, ultimately, if you want to build the next state-of-the-art model, more often than not, you probably want to lean into research. And in order to do very well in research, you probably need to do a PhD or like a master's program in a well-recognized school in order for you to get access to the best resources, as well as the best professors, as well as faculty. But if, for example, you just want to work in a team to deliver models at scale, you probably might not need a graduate degree, for example. You might just have some software engineering background, as well as building models, building your projects, and you can get contacted by a recruiter, as Lynn had mentioned. Considering the field, the industry, people are really particular about what you can do. And so that's the perspective I would bring to this discussion. And I think that the final thing I would like to add is, when considering your end goal, although there are actually, I think in the industry, especially when it comes to data science, people are less, or more companies are less, people generally, when it comes to hiring data scientists, people are less, they look less at whether you attend graduate school. It's more or less like what you can do. However, when it comes to, if your end goal is to work for a big company, like maybe any of the FAANG companies, Facebook, Amazon, and co., they are less, except the teams, the hiring manager is directly hiring, maybe on Twitter. Once they are going through their standard process, they are less, they are more conservative in their hiring. And so as part of maybe their hiring criteria, you would see the requirements. You must have a master's degree or you have a PhD degree and all. I have a PhD in this area.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that might be that is where I might see that, okay, yeah, that having a graduate degree in data science might really be very, very important. And I've spoken to a couple of hiring managers. It really boils down to that because they have the standard process and they have to follow that process. And so they are more conservative in hiring. So putting it into consideration, I just trying to like bring in these different perspectives. So if you're watching and you're listening, it helps for you to like make that informed decision. Like, okay, what's my end? Where do I want to see myself? Like 3-4 years. What would I want to work? What kind of work would I want to do? And then knowing this about the industry, you cannot maybe make a decision. Oh, do I want to go to grad school? Do I want to do I want to work for DeepMind? Do I want to work for like a startup? You know, those are the things that I think can help you to like make that decision. But in summary, I don't think there's one path. It's never binary. It's a mix of I think all three maybe. So yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, it's never a binary path, and I think that was one thing Salomon did mention when we contacted him as friends. You know, he's like on both sides really. It's never really one side against the other, and we are glad to be getting that perspective. Okay, to follow up on this, Evaristo of course follow up on this because Evaristo followed an early similar path to essay as well. So Evaristo, what's your opinion on the most optimal path of the most optimal career for a data scientist? Because of course following up with this, Evaristo had his BSc in, if I'm not mistaken, electrical engineering. And then he made that complete switch to, software engineering and then data science. And then even before getting into graduate school, he's been going through boot camps. So obviously he has like perspectives in different areas. So Versus, what's your opinion on an optimal path for a career in data science?
So before I talk about my journey, I want to answer the question, and my opinion is pretty much in line with what Essay and Salomon has said. I don't think there's a one size fits all when it comes to which approach is the ultimate or the optimal approach to start a career in data science, right? Um, just like Lynn said, there used to be this data science frenzy where the term is like what AI used to be when nobody knew pretty much what AI was. So I think it was like that in data science, but right now there's this, a lot of streamlining of roles are coming into the field, differentiating between data scientist, data engineer, and all that. So for each of those roles, the path might vary for each of those roles, just like uh, someone that wants to pursue a profession as a medical doctor, you definitely have to go to med school. There's no, there's no two ways about that, right? So, but when it comes to data science, just like most tech career, it's not always the case, right? So for me, my path was um, maybe conventional, maybe not. But I did my undergrad in University of Harcourt as well. I studied electrical electronics engineering. But then after my university, so I've been involved with the tech community. We, during my school days. So first, I have loved technology from a very, very young age. The moment my dad got a computer in the house, I fell in love. Right? I really fell in love at a very early stage. I started playing games. I started typing. There's this typing software called Mavis Beacon. It used to be it used to be my go-to escape, place. So all these things kind of made me fall in love with computers very early. This was high school, right? So from then on, I knew that whatever career anything I'm going to do in my life is going to involve computers. I knew that very early in my life. So I think that is uh, it's not always the same for most people, but I just knew that I love computers. Now, as simple as that is, it put me into another set of problems, right? But that was, I was interested in any and everything, right? Be it programming in C, programming in assembly, Python, C++, cloud. I took any and every course that related to computer programming, hardware design, everything pretty much. I found that interesting. I know there was this course from Lynn I took way back. I'm a huge fan, Lynn. I used to take a lot of your courses back in the day. So my that was me getting into technology. Now, when I got into the university, I was disappointed, right? I wanted to build stuff. I wanted to do things that mattered, right? I wanted to be able to build something that is useful as an electrical electronics engineering student. But I wasn't getting that from school. I was so disappointed at some point. I wanted to drop out of school. It was that bad. But then what I did was I started getting involved with uh, tech communities. Google launched a program called Student Ambassadors Program. That was 2012. I was lucky. I was selected. So, I started getting involved with the industry. I became in tune with the industry. So, there's this. We had a lot of Google engineers teach us stuff, teach us how to program, teach us how to use Google Apps as advanced users. I learned how to do advanced search on Google, how to program in Python. There were a lot of things that Google engineers taught me as a student. And as simple as that was, it was an eye-opening moment, right? Because there's the difference that, you kind of see these people are gods, right? But then they teach you this thing and you see that, well, this is not so out of the world as it might seem. So that kind of gave me an additional confidence to pursue what I want, right? But then the problem was I didn't know what I wanted, right? I just knew I love technology, I love computers, anything in between is fine. But then moving on, I did that for Google, I did that for Microsoft, I did that for Intel. Again, different technologies, different activities, but I just love being in the technology space. So when I was done with school, I did an internship with Microsoft for a bit. But then after the internship, I started working in a in a technology institute, in a training institute, more or less, right? So how I got into data science, I knew about data science, but I just knew there's data science, stuff like that. Until this guy came and was like, he wants to register for a course. Which course? I said machine learning. And then my boss was like, do you know anything about machine learning? He actually said machine language. Funny enough. I'm like, machine language in this time and age? Who wants to learn machine language? But eventually I figured it was machine learning. I'm like, I don't know it, but I can get ready and teach this person. It was, I had to ramp up in 2 weeks. So in the process, I started learning linear regression, started learning logistic regression and simple stuff, and I found it really interesting. At the point, I was trying to choose which technology field I was going to focus on, right? The whole jack of all trade thing wasn't working out for me. I just wanted to focus on somewhere. So I was torn between machine learning data science, and then cybersecurity. So the tiebreaker eventually came in two phases. The first phase was when I had to teach this guy. Right? So I had to learn this thing so that I can teach someone. That was a really eye-opening moment, because when you're teaching someone, you have to understand something to the very basic level so that you can explain it to someone that doesn't understand that. And that's changed a lot of things for me. Then the second part came during there was this Udacity uh, scholarship in partnership with Facebook. This was sometime 2018, I think. I think, Stephen, you were also in that program as well. So I took that course from Udacity, and it changed. That was the moment I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go full time in this thing. So that was the moment I chose, okay, I'm going to go all the way into data science. But at the same time, my end goal was to get into one of the big companies in the US, right? Because I've worked with Google in Nigeria, I've worked with Microsoft in Nigeria. Trust me, they are not the same. They are not the same. I keep saying that. It's the same company, but culture is different when you come to the headquarters of the organization. So my end goal was I need to get into this field, but I also need to be at the HQ of any of these companies that I want to eventually work with. And now looking at that, for me, the path was very clear, right? Because uh, you can be a data scientist in whatever part of the world, but to get to the HQ, which most of these companies are in the US, it's really very streamlined to how you are going to get into the US. So for me, grad school was the shortest path to that. And also something Essie mentioned was really crucial, which is from my observation, during this phase, I figured that most of the big companies are really conservative in terms of how they hire data scientists. They pretty much want people that have more conventional background. Computer science, statistics, data science, something revolving around this field. They want you to have maybe a bachelor's degree and maybe a master's degree. Most prefer a master's degree. So this was the core driving uh, force that I'm like, you know what, uh, I'm going to pursue a graduate degree in data science just so that I can meet that requirement. But at the end of the day, it boils down to getting the education that you need for the role that you want. Now, in this time and age, education is practically free. You can get a ton of high quality courses online. Udacity was such a big help. EDX was another one. Coursera, tons of different resources, tons of different trainings, boot camps and stuff. So it's not a one size fits all. I'm going to reiterate that, but just like Esther said, knowing where you want to go and figuring out the best way to get there. But when it comes to the field of data science, what you need is quality education, and that is not restricted to the grad school. I think that's it for me.
All right. Thank you so much, Evaristo. I mean, such a wonderful path as well, similar to that of SM. But I think someone that will be very, very neutral in this case now, because he didn't attend graduate school, of course, but his path pretty much, because I know him a lot, his path pretty much was more like working on projects till he got to, a reasonably sufficient expertise level in data science, and that's Emeka, of course. So, Emeka, what's your journey like? How would you describe an optimal path to a career in data science? Are you in agreement with, of course, the other panelists, or do you have your own path?
So honestly, I think it's more of the passion for me. Because starting out for me was really like more of what I wanted. Because so while I was starting out, the reason why I was really interested in data science more was the fact that my dad was a diabetic patient, or was diabetic, and I was looking at how I can basically help him using technology, but at a certain point I didn't know what to do because I did not have like a lot of knowledge. So what I was able to do was I had to do a little research on some part and all those kind of things that I can navigate to. I mean, then I was the front-end engineer, so all I was doing then was just build web page, all those kind of things. And so I was able to see the power of data science and machine learning and how it can actually be used in healthcare and all those things. So all I just needed to do then was collect data from my dad eating behavior and help him regulate his sugar level. So that was one of the reasons why I had to move into data science and machine learning. But one most important thing about learning is it doesn't really matter how you learn, is your passion. Developing that passion for what you want to learn, and be aggressive about your goods. That's the most important thing. Aggressive about your good and develop a passion. I mean, you can go to boot camp and do well. You can do self-taught and you still do well. Exactly. The most important thing, like I mentioned, passion and be aggressive about your good.
Yeah, thank you so much. Definitely passion is one thing to really look out for, as well as being aggressive about your growth, the resilience there, and so forth. So I'm going to come back to Lynn's particular program now. How effective have you seen the program play out in the career paths of people who don't have that who have this non-traditional background as you do?
Well, I'm happy to say I've had 100% of my people graduate. But my people is a small number.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but it's the challenge, and maybe I can get some perspective from the panel, is my dad was well, he was, I don't know how you would call it in Nigeria, but he was a lineman, like the electricity, he would climb the poles and stuff like that, like a plumber, but for electricity. So they call it here the trades, you have to apprentice. And so, before you use the tools, before you can work on the electrical poles, you have to learn so you don't, hurt yourself. So I take that approach to data. You have to learn before you hurt yourself with data. So I bring in people, and they usually come to me from my LinkedIn learning. Like I was saying earlier, the passionate learners, and they're frustrated in whatever they're doing. They might not even be in technology. They might be, taking a non-traditional path and have some other career. They might be in a different area of technology. And again, the thing that I look for is this aggressive learner and the passion, as was discussed here. And then I just say to people, it's very non-traditional. And I don't know if you guys experience this, but as a woman in tech, I constantly get asked to mentor, and I don't have time. And so I say no. But I say, no, but if it works, you can apprentice with me, because that works for both of us. That way you gain skills, and I have people from the first day work on actual projects. Like, they have to come up to where I am. So talk about fast learning. Yeah. But I mean, it's like the speed course, right? So I think that's part of why I've been successful. I don't know if it's scalable. I don't know. I only know that it works for my situation. Once people come in and we start working on these, genomic scale data pipelines with machine learning in them, well, that's some of the most complex technology out there, right? And so, spending 1 to 3 to 6 months doing that you're very, very employable. So I don't know if that's exactly helpful, but that's what I do.
Awesome, awesome. I mean, for sure, people definitely love to know about your apprenticeship program. So I think I'm going to link to we're going to link to the blog post, of course, we talked about the program, so that people can definitely learn more. I think I'm going to go to Salomon right now. So Salomon, the AIMS program, of course, is one of the the top programs, especially for mathematical science. Is it a program you think you'd recommend for anyone? And what are the prerequisites that you need people to have, or you think people should have before taking on the program?
Yeah, I get that. Thank you for the question. So, currently, the African Institute for Mathematical Science, they have, I think, up to 4 centers in the continent. One of the requirements that they usually take into account before selecting people is you have to have at least 4 years of apprenticeship in mathematics. Like say, even if you did computer, let's say software engineering, but you had some mathematical courses and you did 4 years at the university, you pretty much qualify to be selected by the African Institute for Mathematical Science. But yeah, I need to say that it's a little bit competitive because every year there is always a lot of people that come and they have to select only handy people according to the capacity that they currently have. So I will definitely recommend AIMS program to anybody outside there. As I told you in the beginning, I was pretty much lost for my own career because I wanted to be useful. I grew up in Congo, as I was telling you. Not any single day I've seen a job application where they are looking for a mathematician. Even today, it's not there. So I had my colleague that did computer science and some of them did software engineering. You see some job, at least you say that, okay, I'm excited. Once I finish university, I can apply to this kind of position. But it was, come on, I spent 6 years in the university and I can't find any single job opening looking for a mathematician. And my colleague was telling me that, okay, just get ready to be teaching mathematics in high school. I said, okay, that's not bad. It's good, passion, but I'm not called for that. I don't think that I just want to spend my life. I admire people. I have a lot of colleagues that teach in high school and university. Myself, sometimes I'm also teacher assistant in Germany. But I didn't want to just, after my, my 6 years in mathematics, just spend my life teaching in high school. So I was a little bit frustrated because I didn't know, okay, what my life is going to be. And getting into AIMS, this is what changed everything. So that's why I a little bit said the story, because what happened at AIMS is that they select you, they pay you a flight ticket, they accommodate you. You come. I was in South Africa, so they bring you to South Africa. They put you in a house. You actually don't need anything. They give you a computer, everything that you need, they provide to you, and they take professors, top professors from top university in the world that come to South Africa to teach you. So basically, I can say that AIMS is the best university in the world because it's difficult to get all the top professors in one single university. Almost infeasible because they have a lot of time constraint and they cannot be dedicated to all the university. But at AIMS, you have a professor from Harvard, a professor from Stanford, a professor from anywhere, from Google AI, Facebook AI, that can come for 2 weeks or 3 to teach a particular course. So I think if you are outside and you are listening and you think that you are lost, maybe you did mechanical engineering and you don't feel like you have passion for that, and you want to get into AI or you want to get into biological modeling, anything related to mathematics, give it a try. You apply to AIMS and I guarantee you will realize that you somehow you can get a meaning to what you want to achieve in life. So that definitely I will recommend without hesitation. And so actually one of my friends just got selected I think 1 week ago. Today he just called me, oh, I'm in the capital, I'm taking my flight on Monday, I'm going to AIMS Ghana. I say, come on, I'm happy. When I feel this kind of news, I'm excited to say, okay, there is a colleague of mine, a friend of mine, who was also looking forward about the future, what am I going to do next? I told him that apply to this, and he got selected. Now he's in EMS Ghana, and I'm excited about it.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. So we're going to be sharing resources to get to AIMS as well in the that's in the post-email event as well, post-event email. Sorry. Okay, so I think another question I'm going to be talking about, because I say you have this this should I say conventional, or what people are considering conventional, because most people are now switching from software engineering background into like data science software and data science sector. And I think it's the same thing you did, of course, going into graduate school and then now working with IBM. What would be your advice for similar practitioners switching from, say, a typical web development or typical software engineering background, traditional software engineering background into data science? And how do you think their path should look like?
Yeah, so I think using the word switch, when you say switch to a data scientist, sometimes I always say this, that the word data science or being a data scientist or field, the term data scientist, describing the field as data science is really ambiguous, because most times we refer to the machine learning aspect as well as being a source field of data science, and then the BI aspect as being data science also. So when you say switch, I would want to get some more clarity. Like, are you specifying, are you talking about maybe moving directly from the software engineering background to the machine learning aspect, being a machine learning engineer, or maybe being more of a data scientist, like dealing more with data like a data engineer? Because those are two completely different paths, and it will require two different business. So it will really help to get some more clarity.
Yes, please. You're going from like, yeah, I mean, you're going from a coder to more of like, I want to switch career paths into data science, from maybe software application programming into data science, or I mean, so we have other paths where people just apply AI APIs or something directly into their product, or like changing their path, because we usually get those questions a lot, and it's something I think we need to verify.
Yeah, so the thing is, I'll just try to make it brief, but it's almost like a thesis, because when you talk about switching, it's like, first of all, I would say hold on very firmly to your software engineering principles, your software engineering background, because it would really come in handy. As a matter of fact, that would probably be the differentiator between you and maybe any other person that just gets into grad school for data science. Because at the end of the day, you still have to like implement whatever model you build, or work in a team that, more often than not, you would not work in isolation. You work in a team, right, of maybe other software engineers, maybe and other like BI, business analysts, database administrators, depending on the team, it ranges. So if you in data science fair, this phase, if you really want to like focus on machine learning and being a machine learning engineer, focus on deploying models, building and deploying models, then I think in addition to your software engineering background, you need to really understand mathematics, like Salomon would say. You really need to go deep into the mathematics. Maybe the depth, and not so much depth as a researcher, because if you're going to be a researcher, you would need more mathematics. But then you probably need more mathematics. But then if you really want to focus on just the high level, not so much of the heavy lifting, do so much of the heavy lifting, a healthy amount of mathematics to understand how the models work, and your background in software engineering will really help. Now, if you want to go further to be like a researcher, maybe for example, work in Google Brain, or work in DeepMind, or in Facebook research, you probably would need more mathematics, like deeper mathematics, like going into like calculus, linear algebra, very important, right? And that would really help you to understand basically neural networks, how to like different architectures. Because if you understand linear algebra to the point where you can define your own architecture, come up with your own architecture, rather than just off-the-shelf architecture that you will find in any tutorial, that will really help you break the barriers as a researcher. And then if you're looking at data engineering, probably you switching from like software engineering to data engineering, I think you have most of the tools you need already coming from a software engineering background. You already would have ideas on MLOps, how to like, probably some parts of the ops part of software engineering is kind of transferable, understanding Docker, Kubernetes, understanding how to, the only part probably you want to work on is databases, understanding data itself, like that is a part that you would, but in all, as you can see, depending on where you eventually would want to focus on in the long term, your software engineering background is still key. So like it's more than often than not will be the differentiator. And I think for me, that's what that really helped me in most of the opportunities I've had so far. That has really helped me to do very well. So yeah, that's pretty much.
All right, thank you so much for that insight. Now, I think this question will have to go to both Evaristus and Emeka. I think we had a question whereby someone was asking, what's an optimal project that they can work on that can really put them out there? How should they go about choosing a project to work on, especially if maybe they didn't go through graduate school or something? How should they go about choosing a project to work on to get them in the face of recruiters? Evaristus.
So there's no optimal project, but one thing that I would say when choosing a project, please don't do Titanic. Don't do Titanic dataset. That dataset has been killed and is dead already. Please don't do Titanic. Let's start with that. Okay, so but when you want to choose a project, think of something that, think of the impact first. That is what I'm always going to say. Think of the impact. Don't just do a project for doing sake. Think of the impact of the project you want to do. It's really, really key. When you think of that impact, working on the project becomes exciting for you because you want to finish that project. That's another thing, because I used to have this tons of projects. I start, but I don't finish. Most of the time, I'm not so excited about it, right? I just want to do it for doing sake, right? Think of the impact. The impact is really key. It will drive that excitement to want to finish the project. When you're working on a project that has impact and you can articulate that to a recruiter, your excitement is going to infect them as well, because you're passionate about the project you work on. When you talk about it with that sort of passion, it's going to transfer to the recruiter and they want to know more. But trust me, when you just tell the recruiter you checked house prices, Boston house prices data, nah. Titanic data set, nah. So let me give you an instance. So I was thinking about a project. I think this was last year. So it was the election period, right? And what I observed was in the US election, the polling system is still kind of manual, where most of these companies that do polling will, call individuals randomly, more like, sampling the population to, ask them questions or get their view of, each candidate, more or less. So what I was thinking is there some sort of way to make this, automated, in that at every point we can have an idea of what the poll looks like, based on people's perception. So instead of waiting for maybe CNN or all the other organizations that publish polls, after a couple of days, maybe after 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, depending. So the project I was thinking about is there a way to make this polling real time? That was the problem I wanted to solve, so that campaign organizations can leverage on that information in planning their campaign. Say maybe Joe Biden made a speech and it didn't go down well with many people. They should be able to see the impact of that speech in real time through his poll numbers, right? So that was the problem I wanted to solve. Remember, I started from a problem that will have an impact. I didn't just say I want to take this data and build a project out of it. So this is the approach I usually recommend. Think of a problem that when you solve it, it will really have some meaningful impact. So with that, I started thinking, and then I came up with this idea of trying to leverage tweets, right? Most of when things are happening in the world, the first places that you're going to get a hint of it is on Twitter, right? So the idea was, is it possible to filter out all the tweets that are coming from the US that are talking about Donald Trump and Joe Biden at every point? The moment that tweet goes live, I want to be able to get that tweet. And yes, there are tons of APIs out there that can help you do that. Twitter has an API as well. There are so many open source APIs. So that solved the problem of where can I get the data that will allow me to do this. Now, the next thing is, among all those tweets, can I filter out the ones that are referring to, the ones that are in English first, and then the ones that are referring to these two individuals? Now, I have a huge data engineering problem because there's like millions of tweets coming from the US per second. So you have to filter these things out. And at the end of the day, I was able to build this thing and then use sentiment analysis to say, okay, this tweet has a positive sentiment to it. This tweet that is talking about a Donald Trump has a positive sentiment. This one that is talking about a Joe Biden has a negative sentiment. So for a positive sentiment, it's more like a +1. So people are, this person likes what he said or whatever, likes the candidate at that point in time. So I was able to do this continuously for a period. Of course, the hardware cost was not funny, but I had some Azure subscription that I was able to pull all these things together. But at the end of the day, when I get in an interview and talk about this project and talk about the problem I wanted to solve with it, the interviewers became as interested in the project as I was. So the question was now, so how did you solve the problem of this and that? How did you do this? When you were thinking about this, why didn't you try this? So the interviewer ended up, most of the time trying to help me make the project better. That is how you know that they are interested in the project. So what I always say is, pick a project that has meaningful impact, right? It doesn't have to be, it could be guided by a problem. Most of the time, I want to take the problem route, because when the project is done, you would have solved a problem. Maybe not the entire problem, you would have solved a part of that problem. That is the part I would usually recommend. But again, there's another part of find a data set and then try to build something using that data set. So whichever one you take, just make sure that the end goal is solving a problem. That is what is going to make that impact that the recruiters will always want to will be interested in listening to you. So this project I just told you is just the one I did last year, sometime about this time last year. And throughout my interviews, even my current role, each time I talk about it, I usually get this excitement from the hiring managers trying to ask me a ton of questions. Why didn't you do this? And the interesting thing is, because this is a project I did and I'm also passionate about, I always want to get feedback, like, how can this be better? As opposed to trying to defend the project. I want to criticize the project to make it better. And that is another attribute that most people don't have. Sometimes you when you come to an interview, you find yourself on the defensive, like this is what I did, this is what I did, this is, you're kind of trying to protect what you did. But sometimes it's also good to try to break what you did so that you can make it better. And from my experience, hiring managers or interviewers like the second bit, right? Because it shows that you are open to feedback and then you want to improve on what you think is already awesome. So I will advise going the route of pick a problem, try solving the problem, and also be critical about your solution. Don't get all defensive when a recruiter is trying to, point out some, why didn't you do this? If it's something you didn't think about, always say, I really didn't think about that. It kind of shows more credibility for what you did and the project itself. So this is my own 2 cents when it comes to project.
All right. Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. I mean, you were also passionate about talking about the project as well, so it definitely reflects. Yeah. I think on the final note, just before we go into a couple of questions from the audience, I'm going to talk to Emeka about this because Emeka has worked on some very popular projects on Twitter, and that has put him in the face of a lot of recruiters. Emeka, what's your opinion on choosing projects for data scientists? Because I believe that most of your projects have been put you in the face of recruiters and companies and have recruiters begging your DM. So what's your opinion on choosing a project, especially when you're self-taught and you're working in the sector?
Okay, so one most important thing, I'm just going to add to what Evariste said, and one most important thing is solving a problem. Okay, so you see a problem, you want to solve the problem, you start collecting data, looking for tools that you can use to solve the problem, or you start building model with existing data. All right. So the second thing is actually looking out for how would I put it? Okay, second thing is looking out for what the potential organization you want to work in. Okay, so what are some simple models that are building in that company that you can actually work in? So let's say, for instance, you want to work in a loan company or a credit facility. I mean, project you should be building should be around loan default, should be around credit risk, should be around fraud detection, should be around credit score, credit scorecard, all those kind of things. So another thing you should look out for is what kind of company or what kind of ecosystem do you want to work in? Do you want to work in the fintech ecosystem? Do you want to work in the healthcare? Do you want to work in e-commerce? Or what kind of ecosystem? So that ecosystem, now you look out for projects in that ecosystem and try to be innovative or creative about what you do. So you don't want to do the random thing that everybody's doing on the internet. So you want to be unique about what you do, because honestly, like, people are looking for creative people who can build what they know and be creative about with the knowledge they have, rather than just doing the random thing on the internet. Exactly. So you try to be creative about what you do. So if you're building something similar to a loan default detection, what is so unique about what you're building? Exactly. And that's like one of the most important things that really helped me in my career, trying to be unique, solving problems, and all of that. So that's basically, all I have to say.
All right, thank you so much, Emeka, for that particular input. So know the company you want to work with, also be innovative with your solutions as well. And I think we'll be getting to some of the questions, sorry, in the chat panel. So I think we have a question from Chinedu here. He said, "I'm a graduate of I quote, I'm a graduate of economics and I have participated in several online programs, but it's been difficult getting internship, to gain job experience. What would you advise, especially for someone with this particular background that's non-technical but also has that passion, how would you advise that this person goes about working on the necessary things to be able to land that internship experience, an internship opportunity for experience? Anyone can really go on this one.
Well, I want to just add something because I think it's a great resource and I haven't heard it yet. I don't know if any of you have participated, but when I was trying to learn machine learning, I joined a bunch of Kaggle competitions. I don't know if any of you have done that, but if the audience is not aware, it's an open source, it's a website, and it's basically groups of people working on data science problems. And it's everything from, MNIST, the first, neural network, kind of the hello world of neural networks to get started, to actual competitions where you can win money. And I found that because, as I was saying earlier, I think that there's different roles, and some other people have said this too. One person is really mathy, one person is really software engineer, and it's so intimidating when you start. So if you added some, practical experience with something like that, it could be a hackathon too. It doesn't have to be a Kaggle competition. It's just that those are really easy to join. That might help to differentiate you. As a person who hires data scientists, I look for that. I look for that blend. And so figuring out how to get it in a way that's going to work for you. An approach that some of my apprentices have done is Kaggle competitions. So I'm curious, have any of you done any of them? I like them. I think they're fun.
Yeah, maybe I can confirm that. I did a lot of Kaggle competition, but I never won any of those.
No.
Because those competition usually, the winning solution is just some tweak that happen in the algorithm, and sometimes when you look at it as a researcher, you kind of don't understand how can this tweak make you win. But yeah, I guess I can I can add something on that. There is also this popular platform similar to Kaggle, specifically for someone who's starting, because Kaggle is a little bit more competitive. I guess that the best if you can jump right to that. But I will advise someone if you don't have any computer science background at all and you want to get into competition, because as Lynn said, it's a good way to get started. There is also Zindi. I don't know if some of you know this Zindi.Africa. So it's some kind of Kaggle for Africans. It's a little bit easier, to get people, to get teams and work together. If you start by that, there is a lot of competition that don't immediately offer any money at the end, but it's kind of learning competition. And every week they have some small competition that just offer $500, and if you win, it's just for 1 week. So if you start by that, that will give you a lot of confidence and work with fellow Africans, colleagues, get knowledge, get network, and then with that group you can then jump to Kaggle and try it also. So I guess definitely I will go in the same line with Lynn and say that, okay, give a try to competition. You have been practicing coding, obviously, so can you now go to a practical user case? Because when you are in front of a recruiter, you say that, okay, I think when I applied for an internship, I talked about a Zindi competition on an interview. I said that, okay, they told me, what did you do practically in life? I said, okay, I did this competition. It was about predicting the number of bus tickets going from Nairobi to somewhere in Kenya. So I had to explain the competition. And when you're in front of a recruiter, you are talking about some practical user case, it makes you feel like you know what you're talking about. And I think this is a good way. And before maybe leaving other panelists to comment on that, I will add one resources as well. Specifically, if you're a student, you can also join the Google Summer of Code. I don't know if the requirement also, you need to be a computer scientist, someone can confirm, but I guess if you're still a student in any area, you can still apply to Google Summer of Code. And the good side is that if you are taken, you can get experience and get paid as well. That also come in handy. And there's another one, if you're not a student as well, I was actually Googling it because it has been a while. There's this Outreachy. It's like Google Summer of Code, but they don't give you any requirement to be a student, because some of code you need to give an enrollment certificate. They need to be sure that you are actually an actual student before they give you an offer. But Outreachy, it's the same thing, but you don't really need to be formally a student. And those are good things that can be in your CV, because you will be working on open source project and you are getting paid for that. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so I don't know if I could probably just jump in, especially to answer
Yes, please.
Chinedu's question about from an economics background. So, yeah, I know I hear this often, and that's why maybe I'll just want to jump in and just say something about it because it's really difficult. Not like it's getting more difficult to get your initial maybe like an internship or get some real practical experience, especially maybe as a junior data scientist. So what I'm just trying to like, I just want to let you know that yes, it's difficult, but there are more opportunities that are opening up also. And so this is to maybe other people that are probably in that same at that same place at this point. Maybe coming from an economics background, you probably want to look at being a more of a quantitative data scientist and having like a range of uh, experience or like tools, understanding different tools, not just understanding the tools and the techniques first, rather than just being glued to a particular tool. And I'll explain. So most quantitative data scientists I've met, like economics that are data science or have data science background, they probably would use SAS and R more than Python. And so if you're an economist, you probably want to like lean towards like SAS, even Excel, and this will get you started, at least to get your foot in there. And maybe when you're in there, you can now start switching to like um, building more models and maybe understanding the stack. Because at the end of the day, they are looking out for the if you have these tools and techniques that match what you're currently using. So I would say maybe consider the stack that you're currently using. Um, I think you lean more towards R, Excel, and SAS, but it doesn't mean you should stop using Python because that's something I've seen quite often. And then, secondly, um, it's it. I would also advise that you network. Like I don't know what you're currently doing in terms of networking, but it's something also that can help to. Sometimes we always want to apply online, like looking at opportunities, but trying to see how you can actively talk to people, let them know what you're doing. Like there is not just one path to like getting that internship. Everestus will bear me witness when I say that because while it's very easy to say, oh, Everestus is working at Amazon, SA is working at IBM, but the number of applications that have gone into each of these before getting these positions and rejection emails, um, it's gotten to, I think maybe other people might relate. It was really much to the extent that I became numb to rejection emails. So the point I'm trying to make is it's I'm not saying that you're not doing enough, but I'm just saying that yes, it's a phase, and just keep doing it because preparation meets opportunity. The opportunity will come, but the question is, are you prepared? So like just keep brushing up your skills, keep putting yourself out there, keep putting the project, keep talking to everybody, keep putting it out there like on Twitter or on LinkedIn, and people are seeing it. No matter what you think, they are not saying it. They know that this person is doing something around maybe R or Excel or does very good visualization. I think that increases your chances. But I'm not saying that this is the surest way. Like, okay, yeah, 100%, this is going to land into you. But just think about distance. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, SA, for that addition. I think we just have two final questions, and I think they're very critical. So just a couple of minutes more, we're going to be done with them. And of course, one is one we think we've already discussed before, and that's on switching from. So I think we have an undergraduate student right now. So she's switching from the engineering space to data science. You know, what's just one advice that you think you give to her? Because I know for sure that's the same background as Evaristos as well as SM. So either of you, what's one advice you think you should give to her? She's an undergraduate student, she's in China part now, and she wants to switch.
Esther, you wanna go first?
Yeah, it's fine. I can go first. So, but so I always tell people when making a switch in a career because most times you get overwhelmed with there's so much for me to learn in the field I'm going and you downplay what you already have, right? Um, the virtue for me, what I always tell people, or what I do for, I like to be practical and tell myself like I work from my strengths to my weaknesses. Like I try to emphasize what I'm really good at and amplify it in terms of working, and then while I still work on the my skill gap. So having studying engineering puts you at an advantage when it comes to understanding like having a background in mathematics. You more often would it was really interesting that in graduate school when I was taking machine learning too, which was practically deep learning, I had a lot of people, most of my classmates were like, I remember Americans and Indians that studied computer science, but um, and it was a very interactive class. But when it came to deep learning, a lot of them struggled because, yeah, even with the computer science, and for me, it was an easy ride for me. Not really an easy ride, but I understood it better because of my engineering background in mathematics. So one thing I would say is hold on to your mathematics. You all engineering mathematics, from calculus to linear algebra to engineering modeling to mathematical modeling. I think these are mandatory courses that you have to take as and irrespective of any um, um, field of engineering you're looking at. Secondly, I would say just learn how to program. Probably not for the sake of data science. It could be for your day-to-day engineering. It could be that you choose a project that would involve programming. The important thing is that you learn how to think as a programmer. You learn computational thinking, and you get started. It's a plus, it's a bonus if what you're now working on a project is related to data science or modeling. And so do not downplay the modeling aspect of mathematical modeling aspect of your engineering degree. And now that being said, for the other part that you probably would need to scale up, I think it boils down to understanding databases. I think those are the aspects you would be able to pick up along. And most importantly, having that skill of learning how to learn, irrespective of what I've said, not have that zeal, like I think Lynn has said, being aggressive about learning. I think almost everybody on the call will agree with me that what has really helped them is learning how to learn. You need to adapt at each point. You need to learn how to learn, and probably fast. So it is when you make the switch or you are making the switch, you still need to like pick up other skills. But my first advice would be hold on to what you're doing, the mathematics in particular, the modeling aspect of engineering, and then start learning programming. Maybe it could be a boot camp, online courses, and I believe from there you can, when you take your first course, maybe online that is fully data science focused, it won't be strange to you anymore.
Versus
I
just
mean,
go briefly.
I don't know what else to add. It seems he already said it. It seems he already said
So,
everything pretty. So, what I would say is, when you want to switch to a field, right? Spend some time to understand the field you're switching to. The problem is people just see data science as an umbrella word, and that will cover the data scientist, the data engineer, the ML engineer, all these different. Try to understand these things first, right? So you have a good idea of what the landscape is, right? When you have that understanding, try to understand what is common across board. Most of the time, you're going to see programming, you're going to see SQL, you're going to see probability. Sometimes, maybe not all the time. Then try to start learning each of those things that are common across the different roles that fall in this field. Now, why this is important is you start learning the foundation, because the problem most people have is they want to dive to the shiny stuff. They want to start, image recognition. They want to start NLP. They want to
Yep.
start, all those very shiny, interesting stuff. But you don't understand the probability. You don't understand statistics. You don't understand linear algebra. You don't understand some of those fundamental things that all this shiny stuff are built upon. So spend some time, research more on these individual roles, especially the ones that you find most attractive, and then find what is common. And how do you usually find what is common? When you look at job postings, you're going to see required skills for each of these roles. When you look at 10 different data scientists, 10 different data engineers, 10 different machine learning engineers, you're going to start seeing things that are common and things that are similar across board. Start learning those foundational things. I cannot stress it enough. If your foundation is not strong, it doesn't matter whether you try to use Azure ML services, GCP, or SageMaker to build some wonderful model. The fact that you don't have that foundation is going to hunt you down in your career. So start from the foundation. I know the temptation to dive into the shiny stuff is always going to be there, but from the beginning, resist that. If there's Try to understand the mathematics, the simple mathematics, the linear algebra, the probabilities, SQL, Python. Try to understand this foundational stuff in the beginning. When you eventually start, so I would usually say I try to learn these things in a spiral, right? You learn some programming, you learn some mathematics, you learn some SQL, some database, and keep, cycling like that and increase complexity. As you increase the complexity of each of these things, you are able to, build more complex projects. You're able to understand more complex, problems and, implement most of these things. But if you leave all the foundations and just dive into, what seems to be the most popular stuff, maybe NLP, and just dive into it, you're still going to find yourself coming back to learn the foundation. So for someone that is trying to delve into the field, I would recommend starting from the foundations. I can't stress it enough. No matter what that field is, start from the foundations. It's going to make your life a lot easier down the road.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Evaristo, for that. I think we've really okay. All right.
Yeah, just give me 30 seconds to add to what we said concerning engineering. I think maybe this is not said enough, but there are a lot of data science roles or like AI roles that are specifically looking for people with engineering background. If you look at Google AI residency, Facebook AI residency, as well as Apple AI residency, specifically, um, they are looking at people with engineering background, like electrical engineering, chemical engineering, mechanical engineering sometimes, because they have some probably research that involves maybe like predictive maintenance. Like I know, for example, Amazon has a service called Amazon Lookout, and it's basically predictive maintenance for like engines, and they have clients that need these tools in their cloud services. So they need someone with the expertise, like engineering background, and also some form of machine learning as well as data science background. So don't this is the reason why I always try to emphasize that consider that as your strength, not necessarily like, oh, I'm moving entirely to a new field. And that will form part of the foundation, I believe, we've been talking about. So I just needed to like add that also.
All right, yeah, I mean, it's been an insightful session with everyone. Thank you so much for your time today, as well as your insights as well to the audience. I think one last thing, maybe in 10 seconds or probably even 15 maximum, I'll just go around the panel to just get your final word. What final thoughts would you want to leave to the audience? I think I'll start with Salomon in 15 seconds.
Yeah, it was great to be here, and I guess I myself really enjoyed the conversation. One final word for me is it's not a binary thing. Let me join AZ, it's not a binary. Uh, get your goal and get all the advice that we have received from this school, and I think you're good to go. Don't be of a binary class. Just understand that a mix up of the two will help. Yeah, thanks.
Awesome, awesome. All right, how about you, Lynn?
Well, I have to represent the old people. I'm sad, but I'm fortunate, right? So I will tell you, I just hit a big age milestone. I turned 60 years old, which, yeah,
Oh, wow.
and, but what I'm more excited about is I just increased my learning. I used the spiral, just like we talked about. I increased my learning in something that I'm really excited about that has applicability to machine learning, which is quantum programming. So I just want to put a little thought in there, because there already are QPUs and there already are machine learning programs for which QPUs will accelerate. It's the very front, the cutting edge. But always be learning, even when you're old, like me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always be
Yeah.
learning.
Thank you so much, Lynn. How about you, Esther?
Yeah, I think I'll just so much has been said, and I think it's just keep on if you can just take some time to digest what has been said and try to see how you map out a path for yourself, and just like you said, keep learning and be open to like speaking to people in the industry. I think you definitely make progress, even if it might seem like you're not making any progress, but being here and asking the right part of making that progress. So just keep doing what you're doing and keep raising the bar.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. Evaristo's final thoughts.
Personally, I'd say as much as we've talked about everything, learning and all that, if you can get a mentor, that will also be great, because most times, you know, when you're learning, you might just be learning everything, but it's good to have someone that have been through what you are about to go through to help you, guide you, and make the journey shorter. So try and get a mentor. It must not always be someone physical. It could be someone that you follow their work. I usually have a ton of them, and so it helps you put yourself in check. I can't even stress this enough. If you can get a mentor, let's keep them updated with what you're doing, what you're learning. Let them make inputs to the projects you're working on. It's going to help you start thinking of so many things that your peers might not even know about. And when they feel that you are ready, they will be the ones to, recommend you to their friend in the companies that you want to work. So I'm always going to give an example of one of my professors, Stephen. You already know her. So she teaches in my program, but you know we became friends. She was more like a mentor to me. But eventually, when it's just over a conversation. I'm looking for an internship. He was like, "Oh, okay. I have this my friend in Google. What's your email?" As simple as that, right? But before your mentors can start recommending you, they have to see that you are actually ready, right? So for now, don't go and start networking to get a job. Find a mentor and let your mentor work with you in your journey. When you're ready, they will be your advocates. They will be the ones
Yeah.
recommending you the positions. They will be the one pushing you to the places that you want to be. So try and get a mentor as much as possible. That's all I can say.
All right, thank you so much, Evaristo, for that input. And Emeka, final thoughts?
Okay, so basically, I think the only thing I can say is just be aggressive about your growth. Because honestly, it will be more easier for a mentor to actually assist you when you're really like aggressive about growing. Yeah, I mean, you can't be like so reluctant and expect a mentor to take it to the top. Nah, exactly. So I think that's all I have to say. Just be aggressive about your growth. Every time you think of quitting, just keep thinking, I'm going to be aggressive about my growth. Be aggressive about my growth. So it helps a lot.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining the session today. We wish you the best of luck, as well as, of course, you're going to be getting an email from us pretty soon, probably in a couple of hours from now, with the full recording on our YouTube channel, as well as links to the LinkedIn profiles of the panelists there as well. And then any question you might have, we might probably need to send the answers later on as well. So thank you so much for coming. Please subscribe if you haven't. Visit our website, and then check the description to learn more about what we do at AI School, formerly Harcourt School of AI. So we're going to be ending the stream now for the viewers. So thank you, and have a great day, or morning, evening. Yeah.